Hey there, parents. If you are watching this, you are probably right in the middle of one of the most stressful, high-stakes decisions of your kids' middle school years. Should they take Algebra 1 in 8th grade? Let's just take a collective deep breath, because honestly, I have absolutely been there. I've sat with so many families at this exact crossroad, and I know firsthand just how overwhelming it can feel. You want to do what's best for your kid, obviously, but the advice you get is just all over the map. So in this explainer, we're going to cut right through that noise. We'll look at the actual, real-world data, weigh the benefits against the risks, and hopefully give you a practical guide to making the right call for your specific child. Let's dive right in. So why does this one class feel like such a massive deal? Well, for a lot of us, it feels like this decision is going to permanently make or break our child's academic future. It's totally normal to be anxious about making the wrong move here. You might be wondering, am I setting them up for a lifetime of success, or am I accidentally slamming a door shut that they're going to need later? To figure that out, we really need to separate the proven benefits of moving fast from the very real dangers of rushing. You know, Dr. Daniel Long over at NWEA really hit the nail on the head when describing why this feels so huge. He literally calls early algebra a launch pad, and the research completely backs him up on this. Taking Algebra 1 in middle school is basically a gatekeeper. When a student knocks it out early, it systematically opens up the schedule for advanced science and math classes down the road, and it gives them a massive leg up if they want to pursue STEM degrees in college. Now, because those benefits are so clear, a lot of parents are terrified of their kid getting stuck in a one-size-fits-all system. Take San Francisco Unified, for example. When they briefly paused 8th grade algebra to try and build a more uniform foundation for everyone, parents were pretty upset. One parent specifically called it a cookie-cutter approach, worrying her son was going to completely check out of school because the curriculum was essentially holding him back. And let's be honest, when capable kids get bored, they tune out. That is a very valid fear for any parent to have. To really see why the pacing of all this matters so much, it helps to map out the typical high school math journey. Think of it like a domino effect. If a student takes Algebra 1 in 8th grade, they easily slide into Geometry in 9th, Algebra 2 in 10th, and then they can comfortably reach Pre-Calc or AP Calculus by senior year. It's a nice, steady progression. But if they wait until 9th grade for algebra, getting to calculus before college means they literally have to cram 5 heavy math courses into 4 years. That usually means doubling up on math during the school year or giving up summer breaks just to catch up. So yeah, the pressure to speed things up is definitely real. But rather than assuming early algebra is a must-have for every single kid, we really need to look at this as a fork in the road. Down one path, you have the ready and supported student. Down the other, you have the rushed student. The outcomes for these two groups are incredibly different, and knowing which path your child is actually on is absolutely crucial here. Let's look at the ready student first. When a kid is genuinely prepared to accelerate, the results are fantastic. A 2022 study by Grover found these kids see a 16 percentage point bump in standardized math pass rates. I mean, that's a huge advantage. On top of that, a whopping 85% of these kids go on to easily pass their advanced high school math courses. They're 25% more likely to take calculus, and they're just generally way more prepared for college overall. For these specific students, acceleration works like a charm. But let's talk about the other side of that fork. According to some deep dives by the Copper Center, if you take a student who is struggling or even just borderline, throwing them into 8th grade algebra doesn't magically make them better at math. Actually, it usually does the exact opposite. Pushing a kid into complex, abstract math before they really have the basics down leads to high failure rates and forces them to retake classes in high school. Instead of giving them a head start, rushing them can completely crush their confidence, making them feel like they just aren't math people. All right, so individual readiness is clearly a big deal. But there's a much broader issue we need to talk about in this explainer. It turns out whether your kid is ready or not isn't the only thing determining if they get a seat in that 8th grade algebra class. Nationwide, we have a serious problem with gatekeeping and access. The door to advanced math is just not open to everyone equally, and the numbers on this are honestly pretty eye-opening. Listen to this one. According to NWEA data, only 58% of schools across the entire country even offer algebra in 8th grade. And if you look closer, access absolutely plummets in rural schools, high-poverty schools, and schools with predominantly Black or Latino students. So what that means is you have countless brilliant, highly capable kids whose opportunity to accelerate is completely cut off before it even begins, simply because of their zip code. And unfortunately, even when schools do offer the class, who gets to take it is still highly unequal. Let's just look at high-achieving 5th graders, kids scoring in the top 20% of their class. Among those highly capable kids,
84% of Asian students and 68% of white and Latino students end up placed in 8th grade algebra. But for Black students performing at that exact same top-tier level, only 60% are given that opportunity.
So why on earth are capable students getting overlooked? Well, placement systems are often fundamentally flawed. A lot of schools use subjective teacher recommendations, which, whether intentional or not, can let bias creep in. They also rely heavily on parent referrals that naturally rewards families who have the time, energy, and social capital to bang on the principal's door, leaving quieter but equally smart kids in the dust. And some districts, they just look at one single test score on a Tuesday in April and use it to lock a kid into a rigid math track forever. But there is a really solid fix for this, and educational researchers call it universal screening. Basically, this means a district automatically evaluates every single student for advanced math using real objective criteria, like looking at multiple test scores and grades over time. They don't wait for a teacher to recommend them or a parent to complain. Studies showed this approach dramatically boosts both participation and success, especially for kids from historically underserved communities who usually fly under the radar. Okay, let's bring this right back to your living room and your specific kid. If we know that one test score shouldn't decide everything, how do you actually figure out if your 8th grader is ready? Determining true readiness means zooming out and looking at the whole student, not just treating them like a number on a spreadsheet. Researchers who look at this stuff say you have to consider a bunch of different things. Sure, getting good grades in rigorous 7th grade math is critical, but it turns out a student's motivation, their willingness to push through a tough problem, and having support at home are just as important. And let's not forget about soft skills. We all know that 8th grader whose backpack looks like a literal paper shredder inside. Ask yourself, does this kid really have the organizational habits right now to juggle the pacing of a high school class a whole year early? And here is something I really want you to hear, just for your own peace of mind. A well-designed school system will give kids multiple chances to move up. As groups like the New York Equity Coalition point out, 8th grade is not the last train leaving the station. Good schools offer things like summer bridge programs, concurrent enrollment, or extra support labs later in high school. So if they need to wait a year to catch up developmentally, they absolutely can still make its AP math. So, considering all this, what should you actually do? Let's build a quick parent action plan. The goal here is for you to be an informed advocate for your kid, which means asking the school the hard questions and taking a totally honest look at how your child actually learns. Step 1. Schedule a chat with the school counselor and ask them point blank. How do you guys decide who gets in? Are you using universal screening with multiple measures, or does my kid's entire trajectory depend on one standardized test? If my child is kind of on the fence, do you offer tutoring to help them keep up? If we do decide to hold off until 9th grade, how can they jump onto the advanced track later? And hey, if the school just doesn't offer 8th grade algebra at all, ask if they partner with any virtual programs so your kid can still take it online. Finally, sit down and run through this readiness checklist. Just be really honest with yourselves. Did they consistently do well in 7th grade math? Are they actually motivated to tackle hard problems? Or is this going to end in tears at the kitchen table every night? Do they have the organizational skills to handle the high school workload? And maybe most importantly, if they hit a wall in November, do you or the school have the actual time and resources to help them through it? At the end of the day, I'd love for you to walk away with this one simple question. Does pushing them forward support their deep, long-term understanding of math, or are we just obsessing over speed? Because math isn't a race. It's a foundation they're going to rely on for the rest of their lives. Trust your gut, make a choice that fits your kid, and try not to stress about what the neighbors' kids are doing. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I genuinely wish you the absolute best of luck making this decision for your family.